Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has arrived in the US. He's the first foreign leader to meet Donald Trump since he returned to the White House 2 weeks ago. First up, though, a meeting with the US Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, later today. The trip comes at a pivotal time for the Gaza ceasefire deal. Talks are supposed to start on moving from the initial 6-week stage to the second phase. Well, let's go to our correspondent, Joe Inwood, who's in Jerusalem for us. Joe, hello to you. First of all, talk to us about the significance of Benjamin Netanyahu being in the US.
Well, he was very keen to emphasise the importance of it as he got on a flight here in Israel yesterday, saying it signified not just the close relationship between the two countries, but his personal friendship with President Donald Trump. Of course, there are talks taking place tomorrow that he's expected in the White House, and he was talking about the many subjects they're going to be discussing, most of them based around security, and he said expanding the ring of peace, as he called it, in the region through strength. So he's very keen to emphasise the closeness of their relationship and the topics they're going to be discussing. But as you were mentioning, the meeting I think people are really focused on today is the one that's taking place with Steve Witkoff. Now, he is the US Special Envoy to the Middle East, and it's expected that talks around the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire deal are going to be on the agenda. And this is really important because stage one has been holding so far, and the peace talks are supposed to, or the talks are supposed to start again today. And what they're going to be trying to hammer out is how they can move on from phase one, which is seeing 33 hostages released and peace for 42 days, how they can move on to stage two. Now, this is much more tricky because it would see not just the release of all the remaining living hostages, many of whom are soldiers, but also what's called a sustainable calm in the jargon. What they really mean is a permanent end to the fighting, and that's going to be a much more difficult thing to discuss.
And briefly, Joe, what are you hearing about those negotiations around this tricky second phase from within the region?
So the Qataris, they're the key mediators, or one of the key mediators in this, came out yesterday and said that neither side had come forward to start the negotiations yet. We have heard in the last short while from the AFP agency that Hamas have said they're ready to start negotiations again. And the Israelis, well, they're over there, and maybe for them discussing this with the Americans, it is part of hammering out the next part of this deal.
OK. Joe, thank you very much. Joe Inwood.